Maya had forgotten how suffocating her parents' dining hall could feel. The vaulted ceiling glittered with embedded hollow panels that displayed a loop of artificial constellations, a slow-moving galaxy spiraling above the long obsidian table. Each guest shimmered faintly with augmented filters, beauty upgrades, skin smoothers, branded status auras projected from their wristbands. Her family had turned dinner into theatre. She smoothed the sleeve of her plain navy dress, one of the few in the room not laced with reactive fabric. It wasn't cheap, but next to Lila's liquid silver gown that shifted colour with every camera flash, Maya looked like she hadn't tried. That was fine. She never dressed to compete. Still, her stomach tightened as she walked the length of the table, nodding at aunts and uncles who offered greetings that felt more like inspections. "Finally!" her mother exclaimed, rising slightly from her chair. "Maya, darling, you're late." "I'm on time," Maya said, kissing her mother's cheek. "The city traffic grid rerouted." "Excuses," her father muttered, though his smile stayed glued in place for the watching cousins. His wristband pulsed faintly, as if he'd just checked her punctuality on the family timeline feed. At the far end, Lila rose, spreading her arms like a performer stepping into a spotlight. "Well, now that everyone's here," she announced, "I can finally share the vision that will change everything." The table leaned forward collectively, hungry. Lila's timing was always perfect. Maya slid into her seat, already knowing where this was going. She'd heard fragments all week, Lila dropping hints on the family net, posting heavily filtered previews, lotus blossoms, infinity pools, her silhouette against desert cliffs. Tonight was the reveal. "My wellness retreat," Lila declared, her voice a perfect mix of reverence and excitement. A sanctuary where the elite can disconnect from the noise, rebalance their energy, and, most importantly, show the world their commitment to holistic living. Picture it: personalized AI coaches, floating meditation pods, biodome gardens. Ooze rippled around the table. Aunts clapped politely. Uncles nodded as if they'd already invested. Maya kept her expression neutral, though she pictured the numbers in her head: construction costs, licensing fees, maintenance of biodomes in arid terrain. Lila had none of it worked out. "And all I need," Lila finished sweetly, resting her manicured hands on the table, "is a partner who believes in me. Someone steady, someone successful." Her gaze slid directly to Maya. The silence that followed wasn't silence at all. It was expectation, pressure humming like a low-voltage current. Maya reached for her glass of water. "Lila," she said evenly, "it sounds ambitious. But I can't finance your retreat. I've got my own plans in motion." A beat of stunned quiet. Then the storm. "You can't be serious," Aunt Dahlia said sharply. "Your sister's dream is at stake." Uncle Ramon shook his head. "What are you even saving for?" "You don't show us anything." Lila's lips trembled expertly. "I knew you'd say no," she whispered, just loud enough. "You've never wanted me to shine." "That's not fair," Maya said. Her voice was steady, but heat rose in her chest. "I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm saying it's not my responsibility to fund it." The cousins chimed in like an orchestra. "Selfish. So cold. You always think of yourself." Maya placed her hands in her lap to hide the tightening fists. She could have pulled up her own numbers, projected them right there on the hollow surface. Profits, growth charts, the deals she had walked away from because she valued independence over spectacle. But she didn't. That wasn't the kind of victory she wanted. Her father cleared his throat. "Maya, you know you've always been the sensible one. We trusted you would help the family where needed. Lila is the face. You could be the foundation. Together—" "I said no," Maya repeated quietly. Lila sniffled, turning her face so the jeweled tears in her augmented makeup sparkled for maximum effect. Several relatives leaned over to comfort her. The spotlight swung away from Maya, painting her as the villain without her saying another word. She let the weight of their judgment press against her chest, breathing through it. The sting wasn't new. Every family gathering followed the same choreography: Lila dazzling, Maya resisting, relatives labeling. Still, tonight's performance cut sharper, perhaps because she had more at stake than they realized. The doors at the far end slid open with a soft chime. A late arrival. Heads turned. "Maya, this is Alex," cousin Serena announced, stepping in with a tall figure beside her. "A colleague of mine. Thought it'd be nice to bring him." Alex was lean, dressed in a dark suit that shimmered subtly with nanothread, but not ostentatiously. His face carried no filter overlay, rare in a crowd like this. He smiled easily, eyes scanning the room before landing briefly, curiously, on Maya. Introductions followed, chairs shuffled, another place set at the table. Alex ended up across from Maya. As the conversation resumed, he said little, listening with an intensity that made people feel either seen or exposed. Maya sipped her water, retreating into silence. The family could circle as much as they wanted. She wouldn't give them the spectacle of a fight. But when she glanced up, Alex's gaze met hers. Not pitying, not curious in the shallow way. Amused almost, like he'd caught the rhythm of the game already and was watching her with interest. Her lips twitched despite herself. She dropped her gaze back to the table, but the tension in her chest shifted slightly, from suffocating to alert. The galaxy above continued its slow spiral. The plates gleamed. The accusations hung in the air. And Maya, for the moment, stayed silent, holding on to her secret like a blade still sheathed. Maya kept her fork steady as the plates of dessert floated in on gliding servitors, each dish a delicate tower of synth cream and crystallized fruit designed for maximum visual impact. The sugar shimmered under the galaxy panels above, refracting tiny starbursts across the obsidian table. Around her, the family leaned forward as if on cue, ready for the next round of Lila's performance. Lila didn't disappoint. She pushed back her hair, glossy strands embedded with subtle neon filaments that pulsed like heartbeat monitors, and clasped her hands in a mock prayer. "I've already secured preliminary influencers," she said. "They're lined up for the retreat launch." Can you imagine the exposure? Hundreds of millions of viewers watching them detox in my sanctuary, live streaming every moment. I'll trend globally within hours. The aunts hummed with admiration. Uncle Ramon nodded sagely, as if the idea were revolutionary instead of recycled. Maya noticed how the ambient holo display behind Lila shifted to mirror her words. Faint silhouettes of glowing lotus blossoms projected from her wristband. Always branding, always spectacle. Maya kept her gaze on her plate, breaking the shell of her dessert with deliberate precision. She heard the murmurs. Why doesn't Maya show interest? Doesn't she care about family? Why is she so cold? Then came Alex's voice, smooth, playful, but sharp enough to slice through the manufactured harmony. "Funny," he said, leaning slightly toward Maya. "Usually the one paying the bill doesn't need to brag about it." The words landed like a glitch in the feed. For a heartbeat, even the servitors froze mid-air. Aunt's forks hovered. Lila's augmented lashes fluttered as though buffering. Every head turned to Maya. She lifted her eyes slowly, letting the weight of the silence settle. Alex's gaze met hers across the table. His expression wasn't mocking. It was amused, curious, as though he'd just tossed her a line to see if she'd catch it. Her lips curved, a restrained smile. The heat in her chest shifted into something steadier, sharper. "I suppose," Maya said at last, setting her fork down, "that depends on what you're paying for." She raised her glass, the pale liquid catching the glow of the projected stars. "A vision or a reality?" Lila laughed too loudly. "Oh, don't be cryptic, Maya. We all know you prefer to save every credit, hoarding them in some invisible vault." "Not invisible," Maya said calmly. "Just private." That prickle of unease moved around the table again. Aunts exchanged glances. Uncles leaned closer, ears sharpening. Lila's voice rose, tinged with mock hurt. Private from your family? What could be more important than helping us shine together? Maya inhaled slowly, the way she did before closing a deal. She wasn't planning to reveal her hand tonight, but the taste of humiliation was sour, and Alex's presence had shifted the air. She set her glass down and spoke with deliberate calm. While you've been designing Lotus logos, I've been building something else, a network, a system, quietly, without filters, without streaming it. Last quarter, I turned down an investment offer for more than triple the amount you're asking for. The galaxy above seemed to pause mid-spin. Gasps rippled. A spoon clattered against a plate. Someone whispered, "Triple?" Maya didn't gloat. She didn't raise her voice. She simply lifted her dessert spoon again, broke another shard of sugar shell, and tasted it. Across the table, Alex's mouth curved in a slow grin. He leaned closer, voice pitched for her alone. "Real power looks good on you." Maya's smirk returned, brief but sharp. "Careful," she murmured without looking up. "You might make me enjoy this dinner." The heat between them was subtle but undeniable, a flicker beneath the surface tension of the room. Now the table had shifted. The same relatives who had accused her of selfishness minutes before leaned in with forced admiration. "You never said you were running something of that scale," Aunt Dahlia said too quickly. Uncle Ramon cleared his throat. "Perhaps we underestimated your focus." Her father coughed, straightening his jacket as though realigning his authority. "Yes, well, Maya has always been disciplined." A credit to the family, Maya caught the contradiction in their eyes, admiration mixed with unease. They hadn't expected her to be more than support, the silent background to Lila's spectacle. Now, suddenly, the hierarchy was disrupted. Lila's cheeks flushed beneath her cosmetic filters. "So what? You made money. That doesn't mean you understand dreams. People remember who dazzles, not who counts credits." Maya tilted her head. "Strange. The investors I turned down seemed to think otherwise." The room vibrated with low murmurs, shifting allegiances. Some cousins already recalculated their loyalties, their gaze flicking from Lila's dramatic pout to Maya's quiet certainty. And through it all, Alex watched her with an interest that was almost conspiratorial, as if he'd been waiting for exactly this moment. The dinner ended not with applause, but with the brittle politeness of people scrambling to preserve appearances. Cutlery clicked against half-eaten plates. Hollow projectors shifted back to generic constellations. The galaxy above spun faster, as if the system wanted to rush the evening to its conclusion. Lila rose abruptly, chair scraping against the polished floor. Her eyes, swollen with artificial tears that glittered unnaturally, fixed on Maya like blades. "You stole my moment," she hissed, voice pitched just high enough for the nearest relatives to hear. "You've always waited for me to shine, then cut the light." Maya didn't flinch. She kept her expression steady, almost kind, which only deepened Lila's fury. "I didn't steal anything," Maya said softly. "I just stopped hiding." Lila's lips curled. "Enjoy it while it lasts. People remember spectacle, not spreadsheets." She spun away, filters around her gown flaring crimson before she stormed out through the automated doors. For a heartbeat, the room felt hollow without her noise. Then the family turned. Not accusing this time, but tentative, probing. Aunt Dahlia smiled too quickly. Uncle Ramon adjusted his cufflinks, murmuring something about overlooked potential. Cousins who had called her selfish now tried to catch her eye with admiring nods. Even her parents leaned forward, voices syrupy. "Maya," her mother began, "you really should have told us. We could have supported you." Her father added, yes, we must strategize. A family enterprise, perhaps, united branding. You and Lila together." "No," Maya said, quiet but final. The word cut sharper than any outburst. The table stilled again. She stood smoothing her dress, her voice calm, as if discussing the weather. I built what I built without your validation. I don't need it now. The silence that followed wasn't hostile. It was hollow, like a market feed crashing, leaving people staring at blank screens, unsure what to buy into next. Maya gave them a polite nod, thanked her mother for dinner, and walked out. The night air outside was cooler, unfiltered. The city stretched below the terrace in pulses of neon and drone traffic. Billboards projected avatars 10 stories high, influencers selling immortality serums and mood-coded perfumes. But up here, on the rooftop garden above her parents' tower, the noise softened. Her wristband buzzed. 6 missed calls already. Aunts, cousins, even her father's direct line. The 7th vibrated before she slid the device face down on the stone bench beside her. She exhaled, a laugh slipping out. Freedom had a taste, bitter, sharp, but strangely sweet. Escaping your own victory parade. Alex's voice carried lightly as he stepped out onto the terrace. He'd discarded his tie, jacket slung over one shoulder, his movements unhurried. Maya tilted her head, half smiling. I thought you'd be inside, collecting gossip. He crossed the terrace, taking the seat beside her with casual certainty, as though the spot had been reserved all along. I prefer better company. She arched a brow. Careful. That sounds dangerously like flattery. Observation, he corrected, leaning back. The city's glow caught in his eyes, reflecting shards of neon blue. So, are you always this irresistible at family dinners? Maya laughed, genuine this time. The sound surprised her. She hadn't expected to feel light tonight. Only when they forget who they're dealing with. He chuckled, shaking his head. I don't think they forgot. They just underestimated. Her gaze drifted over the skyline. The drones moved like constellations, ordered chaos. That's the role I've played for years. The reliable one, the background character who'll hold everything together while Lila dazzles. She paused, fingers brushing the cool stone edge of the bench. Part of me liked it. Safety in silence. Until it started to feel like a cage, Alex studied her, not rushing to fill the space. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. You didn't need to raise your voice. You just shifted the gravity of the room. I've seen CEOs scream themselves hoarse trying to do that, she smirked. Maybe I should add human black hole to my profile. Don't, he said, smiling. They'll think it's branding. I think you're dangerous enough without it. Her phone buzzed again. 7th missed call. She ignored it. Let me guess, Alex said. Now they'll all want your blessing. Partnerships, sponsorships, unity photos. Exactly, she sighed, shaking her head. Funny how quickly selfish turns into admirable when there's profit involved. That's families, Alex said. Bloodlines and balance sheets. Hard to tell which matters more. Maya's eyes lingered on him. His tone was light, but there was an undercurrent there, like he'd lived his own share of those battles. And what about you? Where do you fall on that spectrum? He shrugged. I'm an only child. My family politics are simpler, but I've worked long enough to know real power isn't who shouts loudest or flashes brightest. It's the one who doesn't flinch when the spotlight swings their way. He tilted his head. Like you. Heat curled in her chest, not the suffocating kind from earlier, but something steadier. She looked away, hiding the smile tugging at her mouth. The phone buzzed again. She picked it up this time, only to hold the screen, glowing with desperate names, before pressing mute. The device went dark. No, she said, almost to herself. Alex raised a brow. No? No to the guilt. No to the politics. No to being pulled back into their orbit just because they suddenly see me differently. She set the phone face down again, voice firmer. They'll keep calling. But I don't have to answer. He nodded slowly, approval in his eyes. That's the kind of no that rewrites the rules. Silence settled between them, comfortable this time. The city hummed below. Above, the fake stars had been replaced by actual night sky, a rare window in the dome where real constellations peeked through. Maya exhaled, tension loosening in her shoulders. For the first time in years, she felt not like a background character, but the author of her own script. Alex leaned closer, his tone lighter again. So, what happens after the credits roll? Do you vanish into legend, or do you let someone buy you a celebratory drink? She turned her head, meeting his gaze fully. Depends, she said, eyes glinting. Is this your idea of an investment pitch? Only if you're buying, she laughed, shaking her head, but didn't pull away when his hand brushed hers on the stone bench. The touch was brief, unspoken, but it carried more truth than the entire evening's performance inside. Maya let the moment linger, warmth blooming in her chest. She hadn't screamed, she hadn't fought, she hadn't destroyed her sister. She'd simply stood her ground, revealed enough to shift the family's balance, and chosen not to let them dictate what came next. True value wasn't in funding fantasies or playing martyr. It was in building something real, respecting herself, and finding someone who saw her without the filters. Her phone buzzed one last time. She picked it up, switched it off completely, and slid it into her bag. This time she didn't just silence the noise, she chose laughter, she chose connection, she chose herself. Maya sat under the night sky, the city pulsing below, Alex beside her, the air finally light. Inside, the family would keep spinning their games, their calls stacking up like digital confessions. But here, for once, she was free.